Hey everybody, today is, well, it's New Year's Eve, right? So Happy New Year's, first of all, before I forget. And apologize, my voice is still probably recovering a little bit. And plus I was just reading a book out loud. I'm going to get to that book in a little bit. This is not a special video. There's nothing special about this video. It's just going to be a lot of random fun topics, so I guess that's special. But I am going to probably rant a little bit about Star Wars canon, but I'm going to review some stuff. I'm going to talk about projects. I'm going to talk about Tesla. Speaking of which, look at what my wife got me. She got me this wonderful Tesla lighter. I don't smoke, but it's awesome. I totally tried it out on my thumb and burned a little black mark there. But don't worry, it did hurt, but it went up all the way up my arm. So I definitely can recommend these Tesla lighters. They charge. You just plug them into your computer and they charge. So my wife got me that. It's really nice. They're really well made. Definitely could recommend a Tesla lighter. They work very well, by the way. What do I want to talk about first? I guess let me talk about what I've been getting into. We'll start with Electric Universe. As you know, finish up the Electric Universe series with Madam Catherine. And I don't have any plans to do more Electric Universe videos at this time because I've covered everything that I've learned for the most part that you know, it's just a continual education from there. So the framework that I laid out in all those videos is already done. And I don't need to do any more of those videos. I will, however, continue to be working on the plasma science videos. I will be continuing to do plasma cosmology for Cosmogony Corner. And if you don't know about Cosmogony Corner, that is on Facebook. It is a place where you can go and you can get actual, real science. And it will be on, it will be at your fingertips, the actual science, the papers. What else? I've been working on a number of web pages and things. I've been looking at cryptocurrency, and I want to talk about cryptocurrency a little bit too. And when I say I'm going to talk about cryptocurrency, I don't mean to present that I'm an expert at all. I know that most people are probably scared of Bitcoin and what are called altcoins, the alternatives. But I just want to talk a little bit about that as well. I'm going to be coaching this coming spring, actually starting Tuesday the 2nd. So I will be doing a lot of strategy, and I'm going to be working mostly basketball strategy, but I always consider it art of war practice. And that strategy will be, you know, mostly geared down. It's not so much art of war. It's just kind of building sure. And so I'll be working on my chess game as well, which means I'm going to be working a little bit on the chess book as well. Also, like I say, I've been reading books. Let me go over. So my wife got me, check these guys out. These are actually just, you know, short pieces. This is the autobiography of Tesla. That's pretty cool. I haven't started reading it yet. I'm going to start soon because I just finished. This is called The Problem of Increasing Human Energy, with special references to the harnessing of the sun's energy by Nikola Tesla. And I want to tell you that Nikola Tesla had it 100% correct. He was way ahead of his time. I mean, this book was written pre-World War I, and he was calling and making predictions about World War I and II in here. He was even predicting some of the problems of feminism as it would, you know, later become, like after it achieved its success, it became a lot of trouble. I mean, it's become a real problem politically and everything, because even second wave feminists can't even get a fair shake from the new feminism. So he was just a man who was far ahead of his time. I definitely can recommend his book. And again, this is taken from his Colorado Springs notes. In fact, a lot of the diagrams aren't in here. There are a couple diagrams of Teslas in here, but they were mostly, you know, taken out just so that they could print this book. That's the ISBN. Later on, you can pause this and get it if you like. And again, it's called The Problem of Increasing Human Energy. this is a really interesting concept, because what he's talking, he's like picturing humans as one mass and us as like a ball rolling forward, and he's talking about the momentum and the energy that we have, and the times that we detract on it. He was far too ahead of his time. It was a real shame that he lived before the age of the internet, I guess. But at the same time, you know, we can always rediscover some of the things that he learned. And like I say, I also haven't read it yet, but I got his autobiography. Other books I've been reading, I'm still working through Ages of Chaos, which is actually the original book before Worlds in Collision. It's been going slower because I got all these new books. Still working through Giza Power Plant. I really like this book. It's very smart. It's not my favorite writing style, but I think that it's incredibly intelligent, and it has very, very sound arguments about resonance. And then also, before I talk about Dragon Teeth, check this out. The new Ancient American is out. Guys, if you don't have a subscription to Ancient American, please get one. This is the only diffusionist magazine in existence. So if you want to understand, okay, it's not about crystal skulls or anything, okay? It's about people and the way they spread all over the place. Yeah, sure, they talk about giants and things like that, but they talk about copper trade. Look on the back here, copper trade. They're talking about Native American behaviors. They talk about the Kinder hook stones. They talk about that tablet from Minnesota. They talk about things that the mainstream archaeology don't want to talk about. And so if you don't have a subscription to Ancient American, I think you should get one. And if you're a Kentuckian, go ahead while you're doing that, get Kentucky Explorer, because this also is, I mean, this is all very mainstream, legit. People send in information. I think it's fantastic, even if you weren't from Kentucky. It's not high quality made magazine, but it is nice. So the book that I received as a quote a gift, I mean those Tesla ones were gifts, but the gift I got was Michael Crichton's Dragon Teeth. I bet you didn't know that Michael Crichton has a new book published, because he's dead. And it turns out that he actually wrote the manuscript before he wrote Jurassic Park. It is in no way connected, despite whatever the cover may be suggesting to you, to Jurassic Park. It's a separate story based on the battle between two historical paleontologists, Edward Drinker Cope and Othniel Marsh, I think. There's very, very unique names in the 1800s. And then there's a fictional character who you see the story through. It's sort of like a around the world in 80 days kind of perspective. It feels a lot like it's more of a Western than it is a paleontological study. There's very little paleontology applied. They didn't really know a lot back then anyways. It takes place right at the time of Custer and the Little Bighorn. So if you want to know what time and place you're taking, it was really the opening of the West. And it's a fantastically researched novel. It is a page turner. I really did finish it within just a few days, and I wasn't obsessive about it. It's just very, very fun read, very colloquial, and the characters are totally memorable and well developed. You do care about them, even the ones that die, and it is, I think, just fantastic to receive a book from a legend like Michael Crichton after he's passed on. And it is a way, his wife said in the afterwards, for new generations to interact with Michael Crichton, who, of course, is the source material for things like Westworld, ER, Jurassic Park, Disclosure, Rising Sun, a number of movies, Congo Sphere. He was a great writer. He had 4 pseudonyms. So I definitely would like everybody who sees this video to go on to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever and pick yourself up a copy of The Dragon Teeth. I think it would be great if a man became a #1 bestseller in his after he's already passed on. I think that'd be fantastic. All right, so I covered the Electric Universe stuff, web pages. So I was talking about I've been working on various web pages and things. Unfortunately, a lot of that I'm not going to be releasing. But what I'll tell you is I've been looking at cryptocurrencies, and it is something that you need to be aware of and looking into. It is something that I'm not here to give you financial advice. I'm not going to tell you which coins I've invested in. I'm not going to tell you which coins I think are on the rise. I'm not going to tell you what I think is happening with Bitcoin, although I would in person. I just want to say that the world is changing. And I talked about this in the previous video. The world is changing. How things are being done is going to change. And what you have to understand is fiat is continuously inflating and expanding, and it's inflating faster than the economy is growing. So where is all that extra energy going to go? It's very bad to have all your energy stuck in this inflationary bubble. It is a good thing to have cryptocurrencies where you can go and you can conduct transactions, and nobody but you is the wiser unless somebody hacks you. And then afterwards, when you cash out, pay your taxes, and the government, they only need to know that you traded in and traded out. Now, the IRS is going to tell you that they want you to record every transaction between every currency, but they can't trace it, okay? And they'd be trying to fool you if they said that they were going to come back later and audit you on that. There's no way to actually do it. I mean, the hash keys are, this long. No one is going to know what your path has been. So what I'm saying is, don't miss out on the new internet. I mean, on the new, the new next thing. Cryptocurrencies are here to stay, and they are not going away. I've been watching them for a long time. Clearly, I missed my boat, although I probably would have been one of those poor fools who got destroyed in the Mt. Gox hacking and crumbling of that exchange. But even still, if I'd have just bought from like Coinbase and held till now from the beginning, I'd be a millionaire because I was there right when it was the beginning of nothing. And yet there are still coins that are on the rise. And there's a coin right now that just since I've been watching it in 2 weeks has gone up 400%. Now, let me be very clear. There is no underlying to these coins. Some of them are technically only pyramid schemes. Other ones, their value, their benefit is their liquidity and the hype that goes around them. And when people are interested in buy, you can find direct correlations between Google Trends and the coin. So you can just do a Google search on the coin name, and you will see a pretty good trend that a search trend will match the other, because the demand, when a person places their order, creates the price. So if you want to know how does it keep going up, it keeps going up because more people want it. Now, oh, well, this is very fringe. I don't know what to do. Okay, I know. First of all, it is really confusing. It's really annoying, and it's frankly very cumbersome. However, let me put it this way. You are essentially at 0% penetration, even with Bitcoin. People know of it, but they don't know how to get it. They don't know what to do to go forward. I know only a few people that have ever bought Bitcoin, let alone know what an altcoin is or how to trade to get one. Because Coinbase is actually one of those places where you could get your start, but don't leave your money there. So when you have something that's at 0% penetration, but has actually been mainstreamed, and it has a tether to something real, as in real bankers and real big money, people like Donald Trump, who are actually going to care about what's happening to this. And it's going to be, if it's in the IRS tax code, they think it's staying. And that's after 8 years. So you have something with 0% penetration, but 100% future. Now, I can't tell you which coins have future. I think Bitcoin's got a future because it's the first, and I think it will remain around. But then again, there's Bitcoin Cash, and there's Litecoin, and there's other things. There's no guaranteeing that Bitcoin will be a $20,000 coin. And then again, there's also nothing saying that it won't be a $100,000 coin, because it has a limited supply, and so it will be a collectible in some ways. There are even collectible coins. I remember when those were put out, and that's when I was sure it was a scam, because they were selling real coins for something that wasn't real. And then I was like, oh, this is all a big scam. But it was just their way of having a limited, a special run. Well, the fact is, folks, I've looked at it. Cryptocurrency is not going away. You need to understand how it works, why it works. I've subscribed to a number of crypto channels. I like Crypto Bobby. I think he's a very likable guy, and he breaks things down pretty scientifically. You got to understand that the mining, you're not going to get coins that way. You're going to have to put your own dollars in. I mean, you could mine, and you might get a coin or two sometimes. But the simple fact is that, like the days of, running some computers, even parallel computers, and getting a few Bitcoins, and man, wouldn't that be great, because then it inflates to $16,000 and you did nothing. actually the cost of the computer running. But other than that, there's nothing you put in. That would be great, but that's not really what's going on anymore. You have crypto mining conglomerates, and they are really doing most of the heavy work. And these are algorithm solvers, and they are breaking the stuff down to verify your transactions. That's the whole way it works. Is the cryptology is being broken down and solved in equations that verifies your transactions, and that's what makes it legit. I do half expect a few things to happen. One, I half expect the governments of the world to kind of find a way to either create a Fed coin or to start, launching some NSA hacking bot that goes around and tries to find people's stuff and persecute people. I half expect them to just make it outright illegal and see who doesn't sign up. And I definitely expect that some of these coins will die. I think IOTA's dying. I don't mind saying that. I think that Tether itself, ironically named, is a scam. I think it's the only one. It's a very standalone in one of my graphs that proves to me that it is purposely scamming. There's a lot of rumor around it being a scam, so stay away from USDT. But a lot of these coins have use. Some of them have way too much supply. When you think about Bitcoin, it can only ever have 31 million coins. And so it's limited supply in a world of infinitely expanding billions of people so far. Makes it very important coin. But still, things can go up. And there are a number of coins that you can take a look at yourself. And if you get educated, you will find out things. It doesn't take long, right? With all the things I'm into that you've seen, if I can find the time to do it, you can find the time to do it. It's just a matter of putting in that little bit of extra work to stay to the edge. I'm not asking you to learn how to be a hacker. I mean, I could teach you how to get on the dark net. I could teach you how to use the deep web. But I'm not asking you to do anything that crazy. I'm just asking you to keep with the evolution of the times for your sake, for your family's sake. And of course, it benefits me a little bit if people get into Bitcoin, but it's eventually going to happen. It's just going to happen. The whole world is going this direction. China has moved in a big way, and when the Chinese savings move into the cryptocurrency, you're going to see a big change in the cryptocurrency market. Now, I don't want to talk about anything else. I'm going to be doing a review on the Jedi review I'm going to do a better review for Dragon Teeth. But I'm also going to do one for The Wave. And I want to tell people, I watched it last night. It's not a new film. It's 2015. It's one of the best cinema pieces I've seen in a while. It's truly a well-made film. It's terrifying. So as far as horror goes, I don't find things like Saw horrifying. I find them gross. I don't think that they're very interesting. I don't think they're unique. They're not novel anymore. Right? There's nothing unique since Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're just newer, grosser ways of grossing everyone out. That's not horrific. Real life, real possibilities, that's horrific. Now, San Andreas was a movie of horrific possibilities, but I'll be frank with you. The San Andreas Fault, the way it slips, it will never produce the kind of 9.7 or whatever is in that movie and the huge tsunami that you see in that movie. It will never produce it because it's always relieving pressure, right? It's always subduction that causes the Japan Boxing Day tsunami, those kinds of events. Or avalanches, which is what this movie's about. And avalanches actually produce the mega tsunamis. And so this movie is simply just thrilling. And it's a real on the edge of the seat. It's not too long. You care about every single character. You empathize with every single moment. And the dialogue is very realistic. The depictions of family, very realistic. I'm actually a huge fan of Scandinavian film. And I have not been let down yet by any Scandinavian film that I've managed to watch. There was one weird Viking film that I guess I could say it let me down, but it wasn't technically a bad film. It was just very weird, very slow, very draining of me. And I thought, what is this director going for here? Because if he wants me to hate his film, he's got it. If he wants me to hate Vikings, done. Get me out of here. But The Wave is, of course, set in modern day, and you will find it compelling. You will also think to yourself, why do people live in these places? And I don't know. I have no idea why people live like next to Yellowstone or something. I'm not sure. These are places I want to visit, but I don't want to live there. I don't know why people would do that. It's like Japan. You know, in Japan, before that tsunami, they had these little markers, like, you know, a few hundred feet up. And they're like ancient markers. And they're like, do not build below here. And people did. So, you know, you just can't tell people common sense things sometimes, I guess. Before I get to Star Wars, what else can I ramble about? I don't know. How are you guys? I hope you're doing well. New Year's. It's been cold out. I've been talking about Shachi for a while. Obviously, there's a lot of Shachi. My lungs personally took a big hit. Some of it had to do with Arwen spraying a chemical attack in the hallway, and I went into an instant cough mode, for which I am still recovering. But I've been avoiding hiking, actually. I've not even been hiking, and the cold is very cold out, and there are a lot of new records being set. And I want you to be aware that first of all, the global warming thing, behind the scenes, the scientists, there is a huge scandal going on because the falsified data is coming out that they were hiding data. And on top of that, all the best science now is showing that we're prepared for actually a global cool down. Now, this global cool down may not happen very fast, but it might. It just depends on how you see that. Like, were these cool downs usually precipitated by a celestial event, something passing by, a shift in weight? Was it the magnetosphere? Was it, you know, if the magnetosphere drops, does that change how we orient towards the electric sun? I don't know. What I can tell you, and there's my daughter. What I can tell you is I would expect going forward 3 things. 1, more Shachi events like we're seeing. I've had 2 friends who've lost grandmothers in the last couple days. And my heart goes out to them, and you guys know who you are, and prayers to you. I would expect more heat waves out of season, particularly the kind that get you sick. So either summer damp attacks before summer damp season, or summer fire attacks during the summer heat season, or late summer attacks during the cool, dry time of fall. And that layering, that flip-flop, that's what gets people sick. The third thing I would expect is cold snaps, really strong cold snaps, unexpected, bone-chilling cold snaps, in which case, obviously, being indoors is preferable to exposing yourself. If you are a hardcore jogger, just please take precautions with the sweat, drying the sweat and not breathing into, use your nose more than your mouth. I mean, I just hate for somebody in the prime of their life to develop pneumonia because they got a jogging addiction. When it's clearly, you're talking 17 degrees out or 10 degrees. I saw there was a wind chill somewhere, a negative 84. That's no joke weather. And these lake effects are getting stronger, is what I see. And I'm not saying it's the end of the world at all. I think actually the world thrives through difficulty. All energy, the way energy works is you have 2 things at completely differential places, like hot and cold. And that's how like a Stirling engine works, right? It's like hot and cold. I don't have something to super cool this right now, but I just want you to see when you have something that's hot and cold or cold and hot, that differential causes the piston go up and down. That's when the Stirling engine pumps. That's where the energy comes from. You're sitting there going, you're like, where's the energy coming from this? Well, it's sort of coming from the infrared itself, but it's mostly coming from the differential gradient. And when you have a high gradient and then you compress them, this is the new solar news, there's more energy between those sunspots than there are in the sunspots, right? There's more energy between things that are very different. You take 2 people that really don't like each other and they're really not a good mix, and put them in a car, you're going to get explosive results. And so when we have a difference of hot to then cold, then to hot again, or wet then dry, then wet again, these things generate energy, and that energy generation can either be positive or negative. In nature, destruction is a positive force. Wildfires, rotting mushrooms, disease, these things create opportunity. In the marketplace, same thing. Bearishness creates opportunity. In fact, many famous traders, there's a series of books called, Invest Like a Market Guru, I think is what it's called. Anyways, just look up or Marketing Wizard, something like that. And more than half of them describe themselves as better in bearish markets. A few of them are just buck the trend kind of guys. They make money on the swings. Some of them are just mathematical calculating geniuses. But a lot of them, they prefer bearish markets because there's a lot of things that are predictable about human nature on the negative side. And a lot of opportunities get created on negativity. So just because there may be a global cool down or there may be heat waves coming does not necessarily mean that you've got to run for the hills. In fact, one thing that Velikovsky's been teaching me here, there's not really anywhere you can go when a true global cataclysm comes along. I mean, I've got my plan in case Nibiru swings by and creates a mega tsunami. However, there's nothing saying that the mountain I would go to wouldn't be cast down and then the place where I'm at be lifted up. In fact, Lexington, where I live, is a massive dome. I don't know why it's a dome. Maybe it was lifted sometime. I have no idea. But I can tell you it was an important place for natives, and they did care a lot about the thunderbolts. So I don't know that we can know exactly what's going to happen, and I don't know that we should know exactly what's going to happen. What I do know is that opportunity arrives in both ways. For example, I'm not feeling my 100%ist right now, but I know for a fact that that's going to be that way with a lot of my patients. So when I go back to work at the clinic, I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be really busy. I'm going to be helping a lot of people. It's going to make me feel very good to help people. And those people are going to be very grateful because they're going to need it really bad. They've been without me for a week plus. And by the time I get back, they're going to be like, my life is all falling. You see what I mean? I'm not saying that it's good that their life is having trouble or that they're sick. What I'm saying is that I can benefit that way. And I can also benefit, of course, when things are good. You can benefit both ways with the Chinese science. That is not a mentality that is generally taught. The media likes to put hooks in people's mouths and lead them along, going back and forth, convince you to do this or that. I saw a quote that said, a stockbroker knew that he should go bearish when his plumber told him he was going to quit being a plumber and start investing in the stock market because they'd been bullish too long. I mean, everybody was jumping in, which is the perfect time for the bigwigs to get out. So nothing is as direct as it seems. The paradox is always at play. The yin-yang is always at play. And I hope that is one thing that was a maintained message in my Natural Magic series so that you understand how these laws are working for you if you work with them versus how they will work anyways and perhaps be a bit crushing if you don't understand them. I was explaining to a young man. He called me the other night. He was very upset about something in his life. And, I was giving him my direct advice and comforting him, etc. And I was explaining to him how the monkey mind really gets us kind of twisted up. And we very easily can fall into pitfalls, and we don't reach exactly our intended goal because we defeat ourselves. We get in the way of these laws or these changes, right? The Bagua are changes. Bagua means 8 trigrams, but it's based on the changes. And these changes, remember the E, they're what's governing time. They're based on the binary, whether it's 0 and 1 or, nothingness and allness or whatever, male and female. They're based on the binary. And we are based on the binary. right? Or your DNA's, your codons are based on, there's 64 codons in your DNA. They're based on the binary. Fun fact, our coded DNA, our genetic DNA, is not linguistic. It doesn't follow Zipf's law, but our junk DNA does. So the 97% of our DNA that we don't understand is language. It's some kind of language. We don't understand what it is, but we know it's a language because it follows Zipf's law. Right? That's ZIPF if you want to look it up. So what are we coded to do? Well, I think that we're coded to use our senses exactly how they're designed. 10 fingers, 5 outer senses, 8 total senses. You see 7 colors, but you also feel heat, so that's 8. There's all these chakras that go through your body, and they correspond to glands. None of this is a mistake. You have a yin-yang body. You don't have 4-sided body. You have the 2 sides, and you have a front-back, or you have a left-right, but you don't have like 4 different brains going on at the same time, right? Maybe we will get there. I don't know. And not if they keep putting us in pigs, I guess. So working with these laws is absolutely crucial to the path. And by working with them, I don't mean worshiping them. The Hua Hu Jing makes it very clear that the Tao doesn't need worship. And the changes don't need worship. They're a mechanism. Would you worship your clock? I wouldn't worship my clock. I wouldn't worship gravity. So what do we need to do with these Bhagavad Dharma? We need to observe the changes and mold with them, which is how I sort of started this video talking about the evolution of cryptocurrency. Molding with things as we go, and then kind of finding the flow. Now, however, there is one thing you should know about the path, and that is that there are pitfalls that are specifically tests of your awareness. And you could even say faith, but we'll stick to just awareness for the moment and say that these tests they're gut checks. They're reactionary checks to see, are you paying attention to what's going on in your world? And Star Wars, the direction of Star Wars is really fascinating. Won't lie. Like, obviously, a large part of my martial arts background or impetus to get into martial arts was obviously influenced by the original 3 Star Wars films. And I'm very grateful of that. I've enjoyed the literature for a long time. I didn't start collecting comics until I was an adult, actually. So I didn't grow up on them that way. However, I did read a few of the novels as a kid, like Shadows of the Empire and I, Jedi. And so those had an influence too. However, most of my real deep studies about it came after I started Shaolin. And then I started noticing that, hey, this isn't just entertainment. This is like real stuff. Like, people really did this for a living. And it is true. Darth Vader is based on Bakme. And the destruction of the temples based on the burning of the Shaolin Temple. So when I see what's happening with Star Wars, I start thinking about the changes again. I start thinking about the underlying strata changing, and then the way I look at the world, and this is maybe very cynical or very dark, but kind of setting everybody up and then pulling the rug out from under them and seeing where they fall. And if they fall, then you collect whatever it is they drop. Maybe they just drop their essence. Maybe they drop their money. Maybe they drop their kids and the monsters can get them. And there are a lot more monsters these days. If you get I have this app on my phone. It's probably a guilty pleasure of mine called Top Buzz. And it has good stuff too, but it's a lot of monsters. I'm not going to lie. A lot of bad stories. Just the worst fathers and mothers out there alive. And then the comments, if the article isn't enough to scare you about humanity, just read the comments, because it's like every racist and sexist and everybody in the world commenting on Top Buzz. It's a horrible app. You should get it. So anyways, it's reality. So when we look at reality and you have to get real with what's going on around us. And there are a lot of monsters, and the internet's showing us that regular people can be monsters too. And that's an even more scary thing, I think. That's like some stuff that is like if you had the Andy Griffith show and then you like flipped it on its head, and that was like the HBO show, but like at that time, some kind of like dark darker Hitchcock version of the Andy Griffith Show. That would never pass the censors back then, but nowadays you can't hide it. It's everywhere. It's on the internet. I mean, just the worst parents in the entire world. So when I see the Matrix being set up, specifically to pull the rug out, I start paying attention to things like Star Wars. Now, let's be frank. Why is it important even? It's propaganda. And it's designed to win over your kids. It's designed to program your kids or your grandkids or whoever you're watching. Maybe you don't have kids. It's designed to control minds and voters. And it's designed to control culture. And Star Wars is culture. Like it or not, whether or not it's a good film to you or not. I mean, Empire Strikes Back, I mean, no bones about it. Empire Strikes Back is a top 5 film of all time, artistically and impact-wise, storytelling, everything. But the Star Wars as a whole, whether or not it's your cup of tea, there's no denying its impact. There's no denying its import. That's why Disney bought it for $50 billion, because it was worth more than $50 billion. That's an amazing thing to think about, that a man took mythology and just followed a simple formula laid out by Joseph Campbell and created something that sparked the whole world. And he sold this thing for $50 billion. 53, I think. That's amazing. That's like the American dream, right? Well, for him, maybe the American nightmare, but especially if you sell it to somebody who doesn't love what you do, that's the worst. He should have had a clause in there, you know, must keep all my work, has a profess undying love for everything I do. You know, like, they just straight up hate this man's stuff. I don't know. Like, we have to burn it all, and then we'll own it for the next 1,000 years. And that's the way Disney's thinking. It's very Japanese. They are, after all, the hegemon. They just buy it out of Fox. I mean, they're unstoppable unless they get sued for being a monopoly, which nobody will be able to say they are with Universal around. So here's what I think. Let's start with the canon thing. Here's my position on the canon. If it happened in the past that somebody wrote something, a video game was produced, a book, comic book, and it was licensed, it was authorized, it wasn't fan fiction, but it was real material that someone produced, and it was so important it ended up in a Star Wars encyclopedia because it was real material, that's canon. Right? If I buy a house, let's say I go down to the historic district, and I buy a 200-year-old home, and then I go out and knock over the sign, and I just put up a sign that's like, Daniel Boone lived here, and he killed 100 Indians right here. Okay? That's not how it works. You can't just change the history. Right? You can't just change the history of that house. You can't change the historical facts of what happened. So let me say it again. If somebody produced a material that was licensed, officially produced, even implicitly officially produced, as in George said, yeah, it's okay that, you know, Dark Horse can make those comics. Anything in any way that was basically sanctioned and then later included in Star Wars encyclopedias, that's canon. It may not be Disney canon, and that's okay with me, because it's very clear from watching The Last Jedi that Disney doesn't want anything to do with canon. They don't want anything to do with what has been organically growing from you to me and the market all this time. There were teams of writers. I don't know if you know this about Star Wars books, but there were teams of writers that worked together and then would get it approved by George himself. So that material is definitely officially approved canon. And they produced it, and then they published it, and you can still go buy it. In fact, more than people saying they need to retcon The Last Jedi, and it's a very negative thing. In fact, bad publicity is still just publicity. Instead, if people don't like The Last Jedi, go buy the Thrawn trilogy. Go buy the Darth Bane trilogy. Buy the real canon. Buy the real Star Wars, because Star Wars is based on something real. It's based on human history, human mythology, and human story. And it's based on a spiritual path. And that spiritual path has touched a lot of people. One of the most inane things about The Last Jedi is that they chose to use the fool Yoda. And he does impossible things that you're going, story-wise, he could have just done that any time. You know, saved billions of lives. Right? He could have killed himself and lightning bolted the Death Star, you know. They don't understand Star Wars. They don't care about Star Wars. And they don't care about our mutually shared consciousness, our Mass Effect. When you have an organized system, let's call it an organelle, of consciousness that is going between people, exchanging data just like neurons do. If you introduce one cell, which Disney is only one entity, according to the law, like the U.S. Supreme Court said they're people. If you have one entity that tries to change the thoughts of everyone, that's either cancer or a parasite. It can't be part of the organism. Now, Disney canon can be its own thing. In my mind, I'm enjoying the film. I'm like, yeah, this is Disney alt universe. Oh, look how hilarious it is. You know, Mark Hamill's a coward. How hilarious. No. Ben Solo, if you read the canon, Ben Solo didn't do those things. So there's nothing to be upset about, except for the fact that it is propaganda material in which you need to just be aware of its effect, and its effect on young people in particular. Young people who did not read Star Wars canon are not going to be made aware of canon before Rebels, right? The actual stuff that was made and co-made. I mean, that history doesn't just go away. Like I say, you can't buy a house and then say, Thomas Jefferson lived here and he just freed every slave. That's not real. What's real is that people shared this energy and they had thoughts about the path. Some of them weren't right thoughts about the path. And I've enumerated some of those in other videos. Right? If you study Taoism, Buddhism, Kabbalism, Indian stuff, any of it, you'll become aware of where things match and where things don't match. It's sort of like lightsaber battling. There are people who are doing real lightsaber battling, and they're trying to make it more like how a real sword fight would be, as opposed to, you know, just spinning around and, you know, behind the back and all this nonsense. Okay. But no matter how well they do that, it will never be an actual sword fight because it's round and it's plastic or some other material, foam or whatever. And it's just not a blade. It's just really not a blade. So it can't be the actual path, right? The Jedi story, even the really good stuff like about the Jedi in the Dark Horse comics, or the Darth Bane trilogy, again, none of that can be exactly how the real path is, but it does lend itself to teaching something. And that material is what's important. Material that teaches that because you're female, you can instantly become a hero, or without any training, you can become a hero, or you can even beat the master. My God, in one sword fight, she wins. That isn't Star Wars. It's not even anything. It's a science fiction. It's a story. It's not a good story. There's well-established writing principles. It's just not a good story. However, the real canon is a living thing between all of us. The real canon's a living network of ideas, and these ideas are what will endure. Disney is gonna, you know, they're gonna go up and down. They're gonna go all over the place because they're trying to find the market. They don't understand what they bought. They bought to them, they bought another intellectual property, and they treat it just like they would Lion King. In fact, Lion King's stolen. I don't even know that, but you know, they're gonna milk it. That's what they do. Till it's soulless and uninteresting. It's already happening. But the real stuff will continue on because the real path always continues on. And it will always be there for anybody. You can go and read Shadows of the Empire still, and I, Jedi. And that book, I, Jedi, has more value in it now than even when it was published. Because the first twisting of things was when treat the Jedi like they were a blind faith thing. And then from there, the Sith became much more interesting because the Sith became the rugged individual. The market demanded that something fill the void. Now that Disney has produced its soulless version of canon, the market will fill the void. It'll be harder because they have the license and they'll throttle it in their little committee hands, right? They'll just kind of grasp onto it. But like Leia says, the more tightly they squeeze, the more systems, that is you and me, will slip between their fingers. That is the overall message I'd like to share about the Star Wars canon. You follow the canon based on legalities. What is legally licensed produced material? And then decide from there, what would you like to believe? If you like The Last Jedi, great, enjoy it. Okay, and enjoy it's entertaining to you. If, however, you study the path and you're going, you know what? It takes work and dedication and time for the mind to turn over and become this new thing, then I applaud you. And I also think that's really great. And if you think both are ridiculous, that's fine too. It's not for you. And you just find something else that you like. Maybe, again, did I mention dragon teeth? Get dragon teeth. Maybe you'll like that. Maybe you'll like, I don't know, something completely different. My wife, she reads things completely different. She fulfills her path in a wholly different way. And the books that she's interested in and the things that she does are totally different. And yet she's still on the path. I think that a lot of people, they confuse the path with the need to be like this Burning Man, yoga instructor, eat at the salad buffet every day thing. And that's not it at all. It's just not. At its heart, it is seeking the light. It is seeking goodness. And if for you goodness is godliness, then great. And it is also conforming to the changes. These changes will be a mixture of how can you adapt and remain true to yourself and your principles, and just blind, going with whatever, So what is that beer? My friend and I, we were making, like, up for whatever. I'm like, what kind of beer slogan is this? No, man, we're going to drink and drive, up for whatever. I'm going to commit murder, up for whatever. I don't know. God, what are they teaching these college kids? They're up for whatever. I'm going to jump off this 200-foot cliff and die, up for whatever. So people will always fall for that kind of thing. You can know better, right? You, dear viewers, can decide for yourself what is bull, what is malarkey, and live your life that way. And the changes will tell you if you're right. All right? God will let you know if you're doing something right. And if you're doing something wrong, you'll know. You may not know right away. You may. For example, I decided to see how this Tesla lighter felt. Did I mention this Tesla lighter? I stuck that on there, hit the button. I knew instantly. Not all karma is like that. However, it was useful and instructive. I do recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Check this out. You can do this thing. You can blow up, and you can blow the plasma around. It's really a lot of fun, and it does light things very well. Almost makes me wish I was a smoker. Well, I think I'm nearing the end of the video here. I have talked about the subversion. I've talked about mass programming and propaganda. I've talked about the wave. Check it out. It's on Netflix streaming. And I've talked about coaching. Wish me luck. Other than my son, 6, 8 and 9-year-olds coaching basketball. Hopefully they don't give me too much lip. I love to make kids run. I don't have anything else. I thank you for your time, and I wish you for a Happy New Year. If you just signed on, it is ending now. You want to wait, and we'll start from the beginning. Trust me, because I have nothing new to add. I'm just going to ramble. God bless you all, and have a Happy New Year. 2018 is going to be weird and awesome. And take care of yourselves health-wise, right? Because the Shachi will continue all the way through May. Thank you very much, and have a great one.